All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Rings a bell? That was William Shakespeare about 400 years back. Yeah, that's him. Just so, if you haven't come across this speech, let me give you a little synopsis. It talks about the various stages that we go through in our lives as we develop, starting from an infant to a toddler, a schoolboy, a lover, a soldier, and so on till the end stage of senility. Now, if you're wondering as to why am I talking about Shakespeare instead of beginning to narrate one of my grandmother's tales and my experiences, here's why. This very first line here got me thinking why Shakespeare didn't tell us what kind of players we are supposed to be. See, as children, we've constantly heard these moral stories from our grandparents and parents as to the certain ways in which we should behave, how we should act towards others, how good conquers evil, and many more lessons, right? Then, when we go to school, our ideologies about the world and these moral stories slowly starts changing. Let me show you how. I'm pretty sure a fair amount of us have tried our hands at the methods of sleet. But haven't we always been told honesty is the best policy? No, you don't have to admit it here, but just think for yourself, how far was it really advantageous to you? Today you cheat. Tomorrow you'll pass. The day after tomorrow, you're acknowledged. But days after tomorrow, you're not able to apply. And then you fail, which is disheartening, and start complaining. But all this wouldn't have happened if only we had been honest with ourselves. This is exactly where we start letting go of those little lessons we were told in childhood. And then finally, when we enter the phase of the soldier, somehow, whatever we've learned in our childhood is forgotten in our endeavor to conquer the world, isn't it? Today, we live in a world that's a home to all kinds of people. While some are honest and play their game of life with integrity, honesty, love, and affection towards God's lovely creations, there are others who delve their lives in hatred, anger, jealousy, revenge, and calculated assumptions. Well, now you would say that emotions are subjective, which is true because all of us go through these various emotions in these different stages in our lives. And all our lives end up being carved out in different ways. But what about the choices we make as a person? What about the way we choose to respond to unforeseen circumstances? That's up to us. Do we still carry those childhood fables in the back of our mind while making these decisions? Or are they lost in our transition from the infancy to adolescence to the justice? When I was a kid, I used to believe in the tooth fairy. I used to feel that if I loved everyone and helped everyone, she would come and grant me my wishes. Of course, back then my wishes were only chocolate ice cream and rainbow cake. But now that I've grown up, I've started realizing that people don't actually believe in the ideas they were once brought up with. So what happened to all those little life lessons that we were once told? Does it matter if we behave in a certain way? Does it make a difference if we do the right thing or not? We all start out with these ideals and dreams, but then, as we go through life, we lose some of those values. Can't we try harder or do more to hold on to the ideas we've once had as children? Now, you might be thinking, what is the need to hold on to these bedtime stories? After all, they were just meant to put us to sleep, help us get through school with good grades, and discipline us as children. But what we often overlook is the impact these long-learned life lessons have on our everyday lives and on those around us. And you'll be surprised to know how closely our actions and their consequences are related. Okay, let me ask you something. Have you heard about the notion of karma and the karmic cycle? Remember Shakespeare's Macbeth? Macbeth was easily tempted into murder to fulfill his ambitions to the throne. But he was never comfortable in his role as a criminal, and ultimately, he was unable to bear the psychological consequences of his actions. Whereas on the other hand, let's have a look at me. So my friends keep telling me you don't have to be this goody two shoes nice person all the time. And then one amazing day, when I received the invitation to speak at TU, I was pretty much in a state of shock. And my best friend said just one thing to me that made me believe this was actually happening. See, all the good things that you do to everyone are coming back to you. And here I am standing right before you, feeling so special. There you go. This is exactly what the philosophy of karma states. What goes around comes around, somewhat like a domino effect. So if we do good things, then the good things will come back to us. And the same goes for the bad. I mean, come on, people, when stuff doesn't work out for us the way we want it to, we start complaining. But what I suggest is that why don't we realize that we are the cause and the target of our own circumstances and actions? How can we blame others for our situation? Consider this scenario. You are dining in a restaurant, you ordered 4 dishes, and the waiter brought all 4, but by mistake billed you only for 3. What would you do? There you see, here's my little secret. Every time you find yourself in such a dilemma, try going back to those childhood fables we were once told and ask yourself, what would you have done then? You've heard of the saying, as you sow, so shall you reap. So, if we sow the seeds of love, that's the kind of fruit we'll enjoy. Whereas if intentionally or unintentionally we tend to act selfishly, that's what we'll get back. Thank you. And remember, the eyes of truth are always watching you.